Welcome to another episode of Branding Bloopers, a series where we have open discussions about the mistakes we make while building our brands that hopefully others could learn from. Keep it locked for another episode of Branding Bloopers.
Put your hands together for CHUBB ROCK!
CHUBB ROCK jumps upon the scene with the lane and a pocket full of green. The green doesn't symbolize I made it on the top, but Cop last year was a shot. The tone of the
where we are transparent about mistakes we've made while building our brand, but we use that to start a conversation on what we as Caribbean people can do better to make sure that the Caribbean brand stays strong throughout the world. So today, I have the pleasure of speaking to someone very close to my heart. He's my mentor. I consider him family. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a well-established radio personality, and apparently he's also like a big-time rapper, but he's very humble, and that's why we love him. Please help me to introduce Mr. CHUBB ROCK. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
Chilling. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Just trying to dodge the evils of the time.
Right? A lot of evils.
Evils of the time. We're just trying to dodge that. But besides that, everything is good with God's blessings.
Indeed. And everybody in your family staying safe, staying well.
Yeah,
and
everybody's trying to stay safe, and no one's really leaving the house for the most part.
Right.
So everybody's just here trying to take it easy.
Okay.
Trying to take it easy. So I'm excited about this platform here.
Yeah, to be Caribbean, that's what we do, man.
So it's all about mistakes.
All about mistakes. Let's be transparent. Let's talk about them. So we're going to jump right in. Tell us what you think is your biggest marketing misstep that you made during your career.
Well, I was always concentrating on making music and not really the marketing side of it. Everything was more music. Can I find the right record, make the right record? I didn't do the other parts. I never really thought about, so like even with the CHUBB ROCK brand, I never really had a logo. Well, Public Enemy had this $1 million logo, right? It didn't make a difference if you listened to, you were a diehard Public Enemy fan or you weren't, you knew that logo when you seen it.
Right.
You knew the EPMD logo. You knew the Run DMC logo, which is on 1 million shirts.
Right.
I never concentrated on logos. I was always concentrating on records and didn't realize the marketing side of it goes hand in hand, if not even more important than the music. So I never really got involved with that side of it on the logos and, that kind of vibe. I was always kind of, again, I turned off those parts. Heavy D was the guy with the great clothing kind of vibe. Biggie was, again, the guy later on with the fly clothing. And I was kind of a guy, like, if there's a shirt over there, I'm just going to put on the shirt. And, I never really concentrated on that kind of stuff. But those things were important. Right. Depending on, the audience you were trying to reach. And, those guys understood it clearly more than me. And I don't know, I guess I just got into this whole, let me find the right track and do the right song thing. And not really concentrating much on the marketing side, but they clearly go hand in hand.
Right.
So those are the missteps with that.
Okay. But then in spite of, you still continue to make big moves, right? Because you transitioned your career from primarily focused on music to finding other streams of income and, establishing yourself as a radio personality, etc. So what were some changes you made throughout your career to adopt like different career choices and just transition your brand from music into radio?
Well, I never thought about it as okay, well, I'll stop doing this to do this. It didn't happen that way. I kind of got into the radio side by luck, by a young lady by the name of Lisa G. that did the morning show with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, and she recommended me for a radio position in New York when they first when they made the flip of it was, I think it was Jammin' 105, and then they switched it to Power 105. And Michael Saunders was the program director, and Lisa G kind of just gave me this incredible kind of recommendation. And you know, I never did radio before, and Michael Saunders was like, well, if he's willing to learn, I'll teach him. And I had some great tutors up there when I went there. You know, between Michael Saunders and a couple of the board ops, that was incredible. Anthony, that was Ed Lover and Dr. Dre's producer. Moni Love was there. Big Tigger was there. Steph Lover was there. I was able to learn from some great people. They were there doing incredible. They've been in it longer than I have. And, you know, I just loved it, using your voice and speaking to the people, which is almost like performing, right?
Right, exactly.
It's like performing, but in a different kind of medium. And then I kind of just fell in love with it, to the point where even at a time like now, during COVID-19, where the business has gotten so bad now,
right?
But you don't do it just for money. You do it because you just really love it. Just like a ton of broadcasters that do it because they just love it.
Right.
And so that's kind of, I don't want to say a transition, because both existed at the same time. Right. But I really do love radio.
Okay, okay.
Especially Black radio. I want to say it that way.
Let's emphasize that.
Black radio.
Right. So some things I pulled out from what you just said, though, which I think would be valuable for other Caribbean talents to consider, was number one, you developed a reputation. So you had some kind of brand integrity where people knew you would do a good job, regardless of if you had the experience or not. And then you were teachable, and you were able to rely on your mentors and learn from your mentors, which I think is also a valuable asset, you know, that any Caribbean talent should focus on. So I think that was great. Speaking of, so, okay, in terms of learning from what happened, what do you think Caribbean artists need to consider in order to become recognized crossover talents, like throughout the world? What are some recommendations you would give to them?
Well, I think the main thing is to be able to, you know, it's one thing, this would happen.
No worries.
And just wait for it. Yeah. The independence is the way to go. And you have to know where you are. You know, I would watch some Caribbean artists try to mingle with American artists, and I don't think nobody told them that they're more popular than the American artists they're mingling with.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. And maybe it's because they think, well, those artists are already on the big labels, the big companies and everything. And that might have been true back in the day, but not anymore.
Right.
Everybody's on the same playing field right now, because the big labels ain't doing nothing special. And they don't want to sign anybody unless you have 1 million followers, 2 million followers. So if you're doing all the work for them anyway, why in the world would you even need them? So there's a thought process of, or even galvanize amongst yourselves to do certain things, whether have your own distribution, something American artists have never been able to do.
Right.
Now, they've had their own labels, but they still had to go through distribution and things of that nature. So now I think that they need to realize that they can do it on their own, because they got the music, they got the popularity, they got the performance skill, right? Because Caribbean people, I don't think nobody can perform like Caribbean people.
Right?
So,
truth.
Which is why we see a lot of Caribbean rappers are the big performers, right? The Dougie Fresh, Barbados. Busta Rhymes, myself, you know, Salt and Pepper. These are all Caribbean people. So, you know, Biggie, you know, these are all Caribbean people. Cardi B, that's winning everywhere.
Right.
You know, these are Caribbean people. So, I think they just need to galvanize amongst each other and realize that they don't need what they think they might need. You know, they think they might need certain things, but Movado don't need anything. you know?
Your boy, Vibes Cartel, your favorite.
Yeah, Beanie Man don't need anything. Cartel don't need anything. Spice don't need it. They already have the talent and the music and the access to the music, and you know, they don't really need. What's our boy name there? Popcorn, and I mean, he's a serious artist right here. You know?
You didn't call any soca artists. What's up with
soca artists too? I mean, they clearly don't need anybody because they already have that excitement,
right?
You know, and it's positive music. It's, you know, I think that's the only thing that they have to understand is that they can mingle with each other and have. Because Caribbean people always had their own labels now.
Right.
You know, they've always had their own record companies. And back in the day, their own pressing plants and distribution. Somehow they walked away from that because, and all of us feel that way. You just feel like these big companies have all the answers and
they don't
have all the answers.
Right.
Yeah, to me. Yeah. To me.
Totally there with you. And you touch on something that I'm very much of an advocate for, which is Caribbean people working together, because we tend to like work in silos, and you know, there's all these cross-cultural things that we use to separate each other. Right. But at the end of the day, we're all the same people, you know, same mission, and we have similar talents. So why not leverage them and work together? So I'm right there with you. Out of many, one people.
Yeah.
So I guess to wrap it up, just as an extension of what you were just talking about, so independence is extremely important. How do we get Caribbean artists the same level of compensation that other globally recognized talents get? Because we have the talent, we have the skill, yet still we don't seem to get same compensation and same recognition. What are your thoughts on how we could improve that?
That is part of the independence. You know, it isn't just be an artist and deal with a promoter. Be the promoter. Right. So that's the way to get around that situation. Because remember, there's always going to be systemic racism, right? You know, if you put Dougie Fresh and myself and Rob Bass, Dana Dane, Kwame, Special Ed, Moni Love, you put this you know, incredible lineup together, and if we can sell 10,000 seats, right, and the tickets are going for $60 to $100 depending on where you're seating, and a promoter's only going to do that show because he believes whatever he put in, he will hopefully get triple.
Right. Show me the money.
Right. He's not going there to put $1 and hope that he get $1.25. So at some point, if you know that you have that kind of drawing power, you got to say, I'm going to do my own shows. You know, Shabba is like that.
Right.
He won't just take whatever you give him. You know, I've seen him turn down money, like good money, because he's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm worth more than that.
Right.
You know, so now you just got to add the other element and say, okay, well, I'll just do it myself. Because the same way that you're going to rent a venue, do your radio promotion and this, that, and the third, you can do that all by yourself. Because some of these guys like Popcorn, they got 2.5, 3 million followers. You know, Beanie Man now, his career done did a loop.
Right?
He's a
Look what one versus could do. Yeah.
Like man, if I was him, I'd say, yo, keep the belly. The belly is going to make you millions of dollars. You don't need to lose the belly.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's doing, I mean, not to mention he was always talented, but he doesn't need anybody. You know, you need your producers and your music people, and then you do your talent and everything. I mean, Corona is here now, so the performance side of it is kind of on pause for a second.
Right.
But when it comes back, I mean, you know, Caribbean artists should have their own carnival. They are the one, you know, it reminds me of something. Back in the day, like in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, it was, a lot of actors and artists and stuff, they didn't like how the movie business was treating them. So they pulled their resources and came up with a movie company called United Artists. And this put out a lot of great movies, right? We need to get back to that way of thinking. That way of thinking. It can't just be you're willing to do anything to be on the big label, the big companies, when really they need you. You just haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
that they need you. Remember, there used to be 7 or so major record labels, record companies, 7 or 8. Then it went to 5. Then it went to 4. Then it went to 3. You know, eventually there'll only be maybe 1, because they'll have to combine and merge to survive. As you get more and more artists realizing, wait a second, I don't need you. Because now you could just put your records on a digital platform. And they like when I was making records where everything was about records, manufacturing of records, the storage of records, the transportation of these records. Now it's all, okay, I'm going to put my record on all these platforms. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Press a button.
And it's all there. So, you know, but for the Caribbean, we need that. We need to come together and realize that Adele shouldn't make more than us. Adele shouldn't make more than Beanie. You know, if they're gonna pull the same people in that stadium.
Right.
You feel me? She shouldn't make more than Beanie Man. You know, NSYNC shouldn't make more than, you know, than Movado and these guys.
Anyone.
You know. Yeah, I mean, it's all, you know, it's all based on music, but the more we have an independence, the more first of all, the more we'll see that we can be in the game longer, because record companies tend to get to this thing where they will even age you out.
Right.
You're past that now. What are you talking about? Skill is skill, right? There's no expiration date for talent, especially if you've always been doing your craft and things of that nature. You know, it's a perishable skill only if you want to make it perishable.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that would be my thing. So this way we won't make one of these marketing mistakes like I made earlier. So this will be the reason why you don't want to go down that road. You want to realize that we are international. So it isn't just a local kind of celebrity situation. It's all parts of the globe. You know, and hip hop is like that.
Yep.
Hip hop is like that. But we didn't do it correctly. We did okay, but we didn't do it correctly when it came to ownership, like real ownership. You know, real ownership. Concerts and things of that nature. No. You know, no. And we got to get out of that.
Wow. We're dropping some gems, a lot of gems, Chubster, you know, and you touched on a lot of things in terms of ownership, in terms of, you know, keeping fresh with your skills, like so many gems within that, and even conversations that I hope in the future we could have just about how do we pivot as a Caribbean people, where most of our arts and performing arts, you know, and we expect it to be on a stage, and now that doesn't exist. How do we pivot and still have multiple streams of income, you know? So
and not just even music, but even when it comes to TV shows,
right?
Movies, you know, because we haven't really owned that space.
Right.
With the Caribbean movies that have always been successful, from Countryman to The Harder They Come to, you know, Dance Hall Queen and any other movie from the Caribbean, but we really didn't own that platform.
Right.
And we, you know, and we need to own that platform, because when they decide, well, we did some research and no one's going to a Caribbean movie. all of a sudden then that means we're not actors and we're not comedians, and that doesn't make sense. Oliver Samuels, with all of his brilliance in plays, he's basically a Tyler Perry, right? He came out of the play circuit, you know, but it hasn't gone above the equator when he's overly talented. Yeah. And it's true.
And the talent abounds in the Caribbean. You know, in Trinidad, we have Sprangalang. We have so many talents, and it goes throughout the Caribbean, too many to name. But yet still, to your point, how many people know outside of the Caribbean about these people?
That they got these brilliant, talented actors and, you know, stuff like that. You know what it reminded me of? Denzel Washington did a movie in the 90s called The Mighty Quinn. And it was in the Caribbean, even though it was Jamaica, but the lead stars of that movie were not from the Caribbean.
Right. Why?
Denzel Washington, Robert Townsend, even though they're brilliant people. And Oliver Samuels was in there, and a bunch of other Caribbean actors was in there, but with minor roles for a movie that's based in the Caribbean.
Right.
So they would rather put Americans that can maybe get a 30% on the accent than the actual actors that are already there.
Who have the accent.
That have the, except for Cheryl Lee Ralph. She was the only one that's from the Caribbean that was in the major part of the role.
Right.
And that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen.
Yep.
You know, so
to your point, ownership is the key. Yeah. And we change that whole conversation.
You know, Bob Marley, I'm sure back in them days he wished, wait a second, I should have owned all of this. You know, because it was their brilliance that was doing it.
Right. But at least his legacy got it right, though. And they start monetizing.
Got it right. The graph thing, yeah, of course. Because God was watching.
Right.
But let me tell you, man, we can do that again. So
definitely. Woo! So that was great. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the information and the gems, and you know, on how we as a Caribbean people can continue to advance and be better with our craft and make sure we're equally compensated. A lot of important information around ownership. I think that's very important that we pursue that, not just talk about it, but find ways to do it and actively do it as community, not trying to find one chief to run everything, you know, but find ways as a community to support each other. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with us, you know, the challenges you had at the beginning of your career, because you clearly got over it. CHUBB ROCK is an established name in the hip hop community and the Caribbean community throughout the world. So clearly you got over whatever missteps you made in terms of managing your marketing and branding. And we really appreciate all the efforts you have made for our culture. I must say I'm benefiting from it being on your show, The Authentic Caribbean Show, which is one of the first, if not the only, nationally syndicated Caribbean radio show. And that's one of many major business moves you're making. So we appreciate what you're doing for us, for our culture.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Peace. Thank you. This was another episode of Marketing Missteps, and we had our guest artist, CHUBB ROCK. My name is Marissa, and I'll see you in the next episode.